Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
We're going to have to let this audience build a bit, as this is a very new channel for us.
There we are.
Oh, look, there we are. Mark's got is
Sorry,
signed in
so I can read any
from
comments
another
that come up.
YouTube channel. So,
Oh, that's weird, isn't it?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
So how are you all doing? So,
Gemma, hello.
Hey Gemma, how are you doing? We have had a lovely Sunday, actually.
Yeah, just gonna get
Hello,
my
Nadia
water.
and Mark from Bella. There's
Oh,
Bella.
hello, Bella. Is that
Hi,
our
Mr.
Bella?
Gates. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Kellan. Hi, Gabrielle. Hi, Lee Q. Hello, Bella. Hi, George. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Pauline. Hi, Julian. Hi, Nadia. It's Julian and Jane. Hi, Julian and Jane. Hi, Amphra. Hi, Amy. Hi, Donna Lee Fells. Oh, I know that name.
Betty Spies.
We're probably going to see
That's
a lot
what I
of
thought
names.
was your mum. Hi, I'm a teacher and I think what you're doing with your children is amazing. Oh, good. Tell us
thank you,
why.
Katie. Thank you.
Tell us why, because we constantly worry about what we're doing with our children.
But you know what? It's like I was saying the other day. Stacey Groom. Hi, love your family. How lovely. I was saying the other day that, you know, we used to worry all the time they were at school as well. It's just the nature of being a parent is worrying, isn't it?
I do think the worry is intensified because you see your children from minute to minute and hour to hour, not all the time, obviously, because you're working, but more often. And so you can't be shielded from every small shift in their learning or mood or where they're at. So it is like microscopic parenting. It's quite exhausting sometimes.
Sorry, that was a big... I was trying to read what that big capital letters was. I'm just thinking, I'm just letting it build a bit before we give you a bit of context.
I thought something awful had happened.
Because it was such big capital letters,
OMG,
I thought I'd done
Lucy's
something
on tomorrow
wrong.
and I can watch it live because school holidays.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. I thought it was something from Michelle.
How long
or
have you
something.
been live for? Have I missed a whole lot? No.
Oh, just a
Are
few
you
minutes.
judged by other parents? I'll hit, don't you try and read. I'll hit you with some of the
So what I
questions.
thought was I'd just first give some context to what we're doing, because some people will join us and won't have known about. So if you've already seen us talk
Can
about...
I just say hello to Euston Underground? It's so cool. Someone's watching. Cameron is watching from Euston Underground. Anyway, sorry.
Hello. So basically, Mark and I took our youngest daughter out of
Kiki.
school about 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
She was very withdrawn. She had changed so much from the little girl we'd first taken to school. She was in high anxiety most of the time. We'd have to peel her off our legs. She would cry at night. She wasn't eating. She wasn't sleeping. She hated school with a passion. She was a summer baby, so she was a year younger than everybody else in her class, which I do think definitely had an effect
Massive
on her.
impact. Well, the studies show that children born, the younger children in a year, really struggle.
And she was a very young child as well, wasn't she?
Yeah.
She was just, she was the youngest in the family, and she was also struggling at that time with sight in one of her eyes. So she just did not get off to a good start at school.
No.
And whatever we did, we couldn't get her back to a place of...
Contentment.
Yeah, or confidence.
No.
We just felt she was slipping further and further away. I mean, when she really wasn't eating either, she was getting so skinny, wasn't she? Dark circles under her eyes. She was miserable, and she was falling really, really behind at school. And she was in a private school, where the academic pressure is very tough, because often with private schools, if they're a business and they've got to look like everybody is performing at a very high level, and we suddenly realise, oh my God, we've done totally the wrong thing for this child. This is not right for this child. And actually, we'd been cramming over a summer. She'd had tutors and Kumon and all this stuff, trying to get her up to the rate that she was supposed to be for her age, that, don't forget, is picked out of the air. Actually, a lot of countries, children don't even start reading until they're 7 or 8 or doing any proper work. So, and we were being made to feel that we were failing her. Her confidence was just disintegrating. And then one day a tutor in the summer, wasn't it, we'd been trying to hothouse her to get her up to the level, just turned around and said to us, sorry if you've heard this story before, but I think some people haven't, said to us, you do know there's this thing, home educating. Why don't you take her out of school until she's happier, and then you can put her back into the right school. We were like, what were we like when we had that, Mark? And it was just, well, how do we do this? And they said, well, you just write to the school, you deregister, and that's it. Well, an hour later, we had deregistered her. 3.5 years later, she still doesn't go to school, because I passionately believe that the sort of person Kiki is, it suits her so much better to be home educated. Would you agree, Mark?
100%, 100%.
Would you add anything?
I would add that the trauma that the problem that we often encounter with other parents is a lot of other parents say things like, but bullying is part of what kids go through.
But she was.
No, I'm not saying she was bullied, but bullying is part of what children go through. Struggling at school is part of what children go through. Not being able to have everything catered for you is what every child goes through. And if I had £1 within my own family, £1 for everyone who said, well, the hard knocks of life, and aren't you sort of coating her in cotton wool and making her life absolutely perfect? Well,
no.
No, you're not. Actually, if you've got one thing we're not saying, and I've never said, and we've never said, and I came to the whole concept of homeschooling more reluctantly, but I am an absolutely convinced advocate now, is what's appropriate for our children isn't necessarily appropriate for all children. Most children. I went to a state school. School, secondary, primary, loved it. It worked for me. Well, I loved primary. I hated secondary, but there was no choice. So we had choices. We were lucky we had choices. Not everyone has choices, but if you've got choices and you can make those choices for your children, like some people choose to send their children to private school, we will make those choices for our children. And I suppose one of the things that I find a lot, someone just asked, do other parents judge you, is I often get that comment of, well, so people are almost threatened by it. People almost feel like it's an assault on so many teachers say, well, why are you critical? I've not been critical of one teacher. I just know that the school that our daughters went to, and the two schools that our daughters went to, weren't appropriate for our daughters in very different ways. And we assessed our situation, and we decided that the best decision for them was to pull them out of homeschooling. Subsequent to that, we've learned a lot more about homeschooling and learning. Having learned myself up to degree level, learning isn't just about box ticking, becoming an employable item in an industrial workforce that simply should earn money and pay taxes. That's part of life, but that's not what all of learning is about. And I do worry that a lot of learning is about putting you through a sausage factory of churning you out so that you become a productive member of society in their terms, not your child's terms.
But we do always say, and we always like to stress this, Mark and I, we are not anti-schooling
not at all.
Anyway. Look, sometimes people will be really anti what we're doing, and I think, well, that's so strange, because I would never say to you, why are you sending your child to that school? Your child is so unhappy. Your child's got anxiety. Your child looks as miserable as sin. Your child isn't enjoying one moment of their life. Your child obviously isn't learning. Your child's falling. I would never say that to somebody, because everyone has their own. Unless somebody asks my advice, everybody has their own choice. And the thing is, we didn't know we had the choice to take them out.
No.
Our oldest daughter was bullied, and that's why we took her out.
People are seeing. It's so blurry on this screen.
Is it blurry?
It's really blurry.
Can anyone tell us if this is blurry? I think, isn't it because of the connection here? Can you find, there was somebody there that said she teaches a child.
This video's going really blurry, guys. Which are you on Wi-Fi? Yeah, we're on Wi-Fi. If I turn off.
Just 1 second.
Just 1 second. We're moving.
We're going to take you over here to the kitchen, because sometimes our Wi-Fi can be really rubbish over there. That's probably what it is. Is that any better?
Yeah, go there.
Ah, that's better.
Better?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm coming.
Mark, could you find, there was somebody that came up there and she said she teaches autonomously and it's never discussed. So if you could find that woman's comment. Oh God, now we've got the dodgy.
Oh my God.
Bear with us, folks.
This has gone well, hasn't it?
That's fine.
There you go.
Is that better?
That's better.
Yeah. So, so our oldest daughter was bullied, and I think it's very hard. I mean, I think a lot of people in the home ed world are children that have been bullied, and a lot are just people that just really believe that there's another way. There's another way. Our daughter often talks about her friends that are doing, 10, 11, 12 GCSEs, and she says, Mum, they all end up hating the subjects they're doing because they've just got to cram in as much as they can to pass the test. Is it still blurry? Do we need more light? Is it because we need more light, Mark? You would know. I don't know these things.
Well, no, I don't know. I'm
Right, so should we answer a few questions rather than us just blethering on?
No. I think what we were saying was quite good. No, it's fine. People are saying quality's better. Keep freezing a bit, not blurry. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we can find the lady that's making the autonomous.
It's gone so far. If the woman who made the autonomous comment,
would you mind making it again? Because we missed it, and I was interested to see what you said.
Katie Malaliu, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your surname. The breadth of what you can do with your children is far wider than anything we can do in a classroom. Agree. It must be. I mean, what you can do at home and what you can do with tailored, attention. I mean, a friend of mine who's a teacher once tried to actually add up the amount of one-on-one time he spent with each student in his class. And this was at a private school. And he actually, because he knew we were taking our girls out of conventional school, he totted it up. And he worked out that in a lesson, a 1-hour English lesson, each student dedicated from him got 7 seconds of one-on-one teaching. So if you're getting 7 seconds of one-on-one, and okay, you're getting group teaching, sometimes I get really panicked that they don't do enough hours of work because they're not in the school system. But so much of the school system, so much of a class, and I'm sure teachers would agree, is managing the class and then catering for the different needs of the class. And then, if confusions or disruption happen, I remember at my school, disruption would happen, someone would throw a chair at someone, and then, 20 minutes the class was over. Nothing actually happened.
But there are real challenges to home education. First of all, you're always with your kids. Well, no, actually, because they go to quite a few groups, don't they? I think one of the questions that we get asked a lot is, does it cost a lot? Well, most people in the home ed world don't have tutors. Our girls do have tutors, not much, just a couple of hours a week, but most don't. I mean, I facilitate groups of children, which basically means I provide the space, and then we get in a tutor, and then we split the cost of the tutor. Everyone puts in £7, and then they pay that, and then that breaks down the cost of the tutor between everybody. Do you find homeschooling easier? Well, we definitely find it easier because Kiki was so unhappy, and there was nothing worse, was there?
No.
Sort of, bending her fingers back off our leg to push her into school. But there's lots of it that's challenging.
The biggest headline I would say about time and people needing to work, a lot of home editors are ex-teachers, being one.
That's Nicholas Scott.
Yeah.
Oh, you are, yeah. Well, I've met a lot of teachers in the home ed world that have said that because they kind of know what it's like in school and they don't want their kid to go. But we must be careful not to be knocking school all the time because we really don't believe in knocking schools.
Can I just say what I was going to say?
Yeah.
The other thing that's really important is that, and I still have to really remind myself this to get my head, to remind myself to remember this, is that teaching doesn't have to happen within the conventional hours of 9 till 3 p.m.
Yeah.
Now that seems like such a sort of almost non-academic, non-learning part of the entire thing, but it's crucial. You have 2 days at the weekend which in most office jobs such as mine, you're available at the weekends. So if at the weekend you can chop up your classes and you're dedicating your time to just two children or 2 or 3 children. I mean, we've done geography lessons in which I know the girls have learned far more than they would learn across 3 weeks of geography lessons at school. And, in one session, you've got across so much you've covered so much territory. And the great thing is that the teaching never starts and stops within the time of a lesson. And we do informal lessons, but it will carry on when we go out to the cinema at the weekend, if we go to an art gallery, or if the kids are hanging out with other kids. There are so many. It's about rethinking the fierce structure of timetables, term times, and school days.
Hip Trek says we're told to be individuals, but at the same time try and fit us
Fit
all
into
in
the
the same
same
type
box.
of box. Going through the school, and for lots of people it works. I do want to keep stressing that, but for lots it doesn't. George Russell says school is so hard. I've only a few weeks left until I leave, but school alone has caused me to have so many forms of anxiety, counselling sessions, and very depressive thoughts, which stem from school. And I think, you know, the problem is there's an awful lot of young people saying this, and it doesn't seem to me that there's an awful lot being done about it. Teachers are under enormous strain and pressure, heads are under enormous strain and pressure, classes are massive, having to put up with, you know, a lot of teachers are having to put up with very sort of subordinate behaviour, and it's tough, it's really tough.
This is a good question. It's always asked, is it expensive? Could a regular income family manage? Well, it strikes me that a lot of the kind of classes that are organised don't cost an awful lot.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
you
and
do.
some people never pay for any classes in home education. I'd love the person to come back that was talking about autonomous learning. Autonomous learning, which I really want to hear from you, because we kind of fall between two stools, Mark and I, because we're kind of nervous about doing totally free autonomous learning, which basically means free learning, I think, where you're led by the child on what they want to do.
That worries me.
And we get nervous about that because we think, no, but I've met some amazing children in the home ed world that are so super bright and smart, that are brought up that way. And they just, but you have to have an enormous amount of faith. I'm just looking for something I wanted to see for a moment. You have to have an enormous amount
But
of...
we lose all the new ones.
That's
coming
all right,
up.
I'll go back up. You have to have enormous amount of faith to go that way. Oh, okay. I think we definitely have lost. There's a few I
I
wanted
think
to see.
Warface sent it, but it's too complicated to rush up and find Warface.
CJ says, I saw Stacey will be homeschooling her boys. Seems to be the thing today. I don't think it's the thing. Stacey is, and it's new for Stacey, and she's finding her way with it. I think that there is apparently there's been a 5% rise in it this year. But what's that saying? That's saying that a lot of people aren't getting what they want from the school system, isn't it?
I would say that on the quiet, many local authorities secretly would like homeschooling numbers to increase because it takes the pressure off the state system.
They can never say that.
Of course they can't say it, but I do think that there's a sort of turning a blind eye in some departments. I mean, that's a very contentious subject, the whole thing of whether you're registered and all that kind of stuff. You know, we've only just been assessed by Croydon Council, and we got a really positive assessment, didn't we?
Yeah, and some people choose to stay in contact with their local area and other people don't, but you're not obliged to. You're not obliged to.
No.
By law, you are not obliged to. Julian Duncan, what about GCSEs and A-levels? Does this cause a problem for their career?
Well, that is the headline worry that I had when we decided to homeschool them. What the hell are we going to do about their GCSEs? What the hell are we going to do about their A-levels? Well, the first thing is, I took O-levels, I took A-levels. They were very useful for me in my career. They're not necessarily the be-all and end-all in terms of even qualifications. There are all sorts of other qualifications, diplomas, BTECs, lots more vocational courses, as well as, you know, the standard GCSEs, coding qualifications,
But
IT
also,
qualifications.
a lot of home ed people take their GCSEs.
Yeah.
The difficult thing is you have to pay for them, which I think is really unfair. Why should somebody, just because they've taken the pressure off schools for years anyway by not having them in the school, I think that they should get their GCSEs
What would you
for
say
free.
to this? What if both parents had 9-to-5 jobs? School is pretty much free childcare for working parents. How would they homeschool?
Exactly. That would be really hard.
That is a problem.
But you know what? There'll be some people that come up and answer this. I mean, we live next door to my parents. We are very lucky. We sort of all change around shifts. We're all self-employed, so we can move around and help. But I do know that, because the other thing is you don't necessarily have to do school in school hours. You're not going 9 till 3. So some people will change all that around.
But you still have a childcare problem if you're working.
Yeah,
and work,
of
you know,
course.
we are both freelancers, so we do have the luxury of being able to mix and match across a week. We have the luxury of being able to lean on a weekend, but we also have the luxury, you could call it a luxury, but it's just it's a low fee of having, they have quite busy schedules. They have sort of almost Wednesday schools and classes, and they go to classes, they go to groups, you know, they socialise with other homeschooling kids.
But if they were young, certainly it would be very difficult, like anything else. And I mean a lot of people in the home ed community that one of them does give up work. They feel that strongly about it.
You don't have to legally go to school to do GCSEs and A-levels, no?
No, you don't.
You don't.
If there's anybody there, home ed, that could answer that lady about how you cope if you're both in full-time work. I just wanted to answer this one. From Gail Caroline Cummings, do your children accept your school rules easily? Well, Gail, this is the whole thing. We don't have school rules. We don't have rules. We're not trying to recreate school. There's homeschooling and there's home education, and we do home education. So we haven't tried to recreate school in our house. They have quite a bit of free learning. Each week will be quite different, how we might approach it, and then they have their homeschooling groups that they go to. So, yeah, I mean, our kids are good kids. If we tell them they've got to do something, they'll do something, won't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Have you found your children getting left out of social things or issues with socialising? Well, that was the other worry.
I wish our kids didn't socialise as much.
No, they have such a busy social life. It's quite frightening. But also, the really great thing for Kiki, she was struggling with friendships at school. I mean, the thing about school, and I remember Nadia saying this once, and it really struck a chord with me. You've got no choice about the children you're being forced to befriend in a class. You know, there might actually be no one in that class that you're going to get on with, or they might not want to get on with you. And so most of Kiki's friendship group are all older than her.
Both our kids, when they left school, we said, is there anyone you have to keep in contact with? And it was kind of a no. Maddie had a couple, but, that's an interesting question there. Tracy Gillett, sorry, I've just joined this, but as a primary school teacher, I salute you. Oh, thank you. Sadly, we don't teach to children's learning in this country. Every child learns in such a different way.
Absolutely.
Oh, Tracy. And that's where our heart goes out to good teachers that are just desperate to be able to come a bit off the syllabus, spend a bit more time with somebody that might be very, I mean, I think we always think about children that are struggling, but sometimes super bright children struggle and the teachers can't give them
I love you,
attention.
George Russell. Why should you have to pay for Kiki's GCSEs when others get it free in school?
I know.
That's a very valid point.
I don't understand.
I mean, the thing is, we use home learning tools such as places like the Oxford Home Schooling. The Oxford Home Learning, Oxford Home Schooling, and they have IGCSE syllabuses which we follow. And the plan, the very specific plan with Maddie's IGCSEs is that she will study the syllabuses of English and history and film studies and whatever, history, English literature, English language, and then after finishing the syllabus, she will take herself off to a further education college if she wants, Lewisham College, wherever, and she will then sit her GCSEs. But you're right, we have to pay for the syllabuses, we have to pay for the courses, we have to pay for all the paperwork, and then we have to pay for her registering to take the GCSEs. So it does stack up on that side in terms of the cost. So
for people that are struggling, it's really unfair.
But from what Nadia says, the homeschooling community and the home ed community is incredibly supportive in pooling resources and pooling GCSE syllabuses. But the thing that staggers me is, as soon as you let a child move at their own pace and under their own steam, there's this very, very sort of jaundiced assumption amongst adults that they just won't do any work. Oh, no, they will. They gravitate towards things. They might gravitate to what they find most stimulating and enjoyable to begin with. But I've noticed loads of kids suddenly, in their friendship groups, suddenly saying, I'm thinking of Anya and people who say, right, I want to do this, I want to take this course. They're suddenly acting, they're applying to go to this college.
Yeah, they're self-started. A lot of colleges and universities actually seek out home-educated children because they say so much of that first year's work that is done at university, which is trying to get them to be self-motivated, they just come and they don't know because it's been so like, you will do this, you will do that. Whereas home-ed children on the whole are quite good self-starters. Jasmine Lake, are you a home-ed girl? You were saying, me and my two younger sisters choose what we want to learn. Yes, you must be home-educated. I want to be a dispatcher for the ambulance service, so I'm working towards that. And my sisters are working towards what they want to too. Yeah, our daughter Maddie definitely wants to go to drama school. So so much of the way she learns, we do around that. So she spends a lot of time going to theatre. She reads a lot of plays. She's a member of 2 drama groups, so she's nearly always in some sort of a production. Mark will often skew her English so that she's also in some way looking at drama. Like, he'll take her off the syllabus, because Mark is very highly educated. He's the very highly educated one out of the two. So he can take her off the syllabus when it's getting a bit boring.
Dry.
And go, God, this is so
dry.
dry. Like you were saying, wasn't she? In history.
History.
It was getting so dry, so he just took her off the syllabus, got her to watch, was it Selma? And got her into the whole civil rights movement out in the States. And she was back on fire, because she was getting that history face.
Yeah.
History! You know, just like, just put it in. I mean, I know probably a lot of people, more traditional people, be sitting there going, well, children are supposed to be bored. Children, that's what makes people... I don't know. I mean,
Someone's asking about Kiki alongside because in a weird way, you can see Maddie's trajectory. She won't be taking all the GCSEs, but nothing is stopping her at the age of 16 if she decides she wants her maths GCSE to take her maths GCSE. No one is stopping her from doing anything. We constantly have pit stops where we say to the girls, there's this school that's come up, there's this school come up. Would you like to reconsider? Would you like to consider it in a different place? You know, so it's not as if we've made a decision that's inflexible. We are always giving them the choice to go
choices.
back.
So it says, Joe Plum says, do you follow their interests? We really try to. So at the moment, Kiki is obsessed with Stranger Things. Obsessed. It's her greatest passion. So we're thinking, how can we use that in her learning? So Mark came up with the idea. Jasmine's back. Just want to go back to him. Mark came up with the idea of, why don't we get her and her friends to start doing a fan fiction? Okay, so then that's them writing, that's them discussing, that's coming up with ideas. They've got to get organised, they've got to make it interesting. That's English. It's just not English in the way that you think of it from the book. Jasmine Lake, yes, you are home ed. Lovely to hear from you. This is the one that's wanting to be the dispatch for young. So, yes, I am. I've been for my whole school life. I'm 18 soon. My 5 other siblings are 2. The youngest 3 stick to a Waldorf curriculum.
Okay.
Can we write that down? We've never heard of that.
No, I remember that.
Waldorf curriculum. Think of the Waldorf Hotel.
Yeah.
So, do you love it? Do you wish you'd gone to school? Do all your... That's what we worry about sometimes. We sometimes think, what if our kids grow up and say, why don't you just force us to go to school? Don't we? Does anyone else that's home ed ever get the fear? What if my child says to me, why didn't you send me to school?
How did Mark's other 2 girls react when you told them Maddie and Kiki were being homeschooled? Well,
Great
interestingly, Izzy often says she's jealous.
It's our eldest. Does she?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she does actually.
She says, you know what?
She did
it's
very
really
well at
frustrating.
school.
I mean, she did very well at school, but she felt that so many of her passions. It's like school will make you a jack of all trades and a master of none. And she felt like she was being prevented from being a master of the few she felt she could be even more passionate about. And so, you know, it's horses for courses. Yes, you need to have, you know, the girls might not do maths GCSE, but they do maths for life as a class. We have a duty and a responsibility to help them function in the world mathematically, so that they, you know, can measure things, so they can weigh things, so they can pay for things in a shop, you know, and you know, they might not go to algorithmic processes that I remember doing in my O-level maths, and I got an A, and I've never used since.
But some would argue that it taught you problem solving.
No, there is problem solving.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, if I'm honest, and a question I'd love to put out to the home ed community is, I do get worried that if Kiki was to verge towards a much more scientific bent, I'm much more worried about, say, medicine, science, or biology, and she's sometimes to express interest in working with animals. You know, you're not well set in a home ed environment for biology, chemistry, physics. I mean, you just aren't. So, you know, I'd be curious to know what you do in that situation. Engineering, you know, we talk. There's lots of talk about there aren't enough women and girls moving into engineering and sciences, and you know, Kiki has a very sort of specific engineering kind of mind. So, you know,
but we'll
look into that. We'll always explore that and look into that.
George Russell, I've just received my GCSE timetable. I'd love to send them to you, because also I've got so many exams, some the same day, and in less than 2 months to study. It's so much pressure. Oh, poor you, George. Poor you. But you just get through it, and then it'll be done for life. Helen
what about
Hicks.
the parents who can't afford to pay for their children to go to school? What advice would you give them?
Who can't afford to pay for their children to go to school?
Yeah, I don't really understand.
Don't understand that.
The question.
Because you don't have to pay to go to school. Helen Hicks. Do you mean homeschooled? What would you... We didn't understand.
If you could rewind the time back, would you both yourself choose homeschooling for yourselves? That's a really good.
Well, I wouldn't.
No.
I really enjoyed school.
No, well, I hated secondary school. I loved primary school. But
my mum was too strict. I wouldn't want it. I love my mum, but I wouldn't have wanted to spend all day with her.
Well, no, I only had my mother, and she was rarely there when she was there. If you know what I mean. But no, what I would say though about my learning, which is how I've managed to flip into accepting the ideology, if you like, of homeschooling, is that all of my teachers at primary school and secondary school taught in a home ed fashion. My English teachers rarely sat there and taught us English. Our history teachers rarely sat there and taught us history. They were constantly finding other ways of stimulating
Somebody
us.
just said that their school teaches English with her sons through superheroes
there
and
you
everything.
go, yeah.
I mean, those schools, oh my God, those schools, we love those schools.
If we had a school like that, this is the thing, if we had a school like that near us,
our kids would be in it.
Our kids would be in it. We're simply making a choice based on the availability of schools in our area and the needs of our children.
Somebody's asked us, do we wish that our children, Amy Eyre, do you wish your children were home educated from the beginning? Kiki, yes. Maddie, no, because Maddie really enjoyed primary school, didn't she?
Yeah, she did.
But Kiki, I really, really wish that we hadn't sent her so young.
And there is something that I worry about as well, and I do think school does give you, is organisation. It's very hard to be organised in homeschooling. I mean, even the most organised homeschoolers, I think, struggle to... And I do worry sometimes about the ability to set rigid timetables to a degree. Because, you know, philosophically, I think a lot of people don't agree with that even. And I struggle with that. I think it's important to know how to manage your time. It's important to know how to manage your work time as well as your play time. And I think we struggle. I mean, I don't think we're saying we find it easy, are we?
God, it's not easy. It's not an easy choice.
No.
But the thing is, quite a number of people have said to me, oh God, but I don't want to see my kids all day. I like sending them to school and not seeing them. So we have a very intense relationship with our daughters, which I know some people think is odd, but we really love it. We really are. We have enormous fun together as a family. We like spending time. Joe Plum says the superhero thing is a special school with boys with ADHD and challenging behaviour. But you know what? So that's where that's taught through. But why not teach that in schools as well? I mean, it just makes sense to me. I don't think children have to be bored and miserable to learn, but a lot of people think so. I'd love to be in school, but I'm in year 11. School is really horrible for me. A lot of people make fun of me and it's very stressful. Katie, sorry, I'm so sorry. That is so hard. Just think, it won't be forever.
NASA did a study of longitudinal group of 16,000 5-year-olds and followed them until 31. Given the same creative test, these students went from 98% creativity at age 5 to 2% creativity at the age of 31.
Just kills it.
Wow.
Just kills it.
Wow. Has it improved your relationship with the girls? It's an interesting one.
Well, oh God, yeah. I mean, why am I even pausing? Kiki was wide-eyed, terrified like that the whole time, hanging on. And every day I felt like I was breaking her heart by forcing her to go into a place where she was petrified, learning absolutely nothing because she was too scared. Not the school's fault, it just wasn't the right school for her. And so imagine how she must have felt as being so young, thinking, why do my mum and dad keep sending me somewhere where I'm so sad? So yeah, our relationship has improved massively, and we're able to support her in the way that she needs to be supported.
I mean, just an interesting thought, that question someone was asking about whether Izzy and Fleur look at Maddie and Kiki and wish they were homeschooled. Izzy, bizarrely, is in a relationship with a man who was homeschooled.
Yeah.
And she finds his what's the word when you
Starter.
His self-starterness, but also his self-preservation and his ability to keep himself sort of sustained. His self-sustainability is hugely successful, but also, you know, there's an ability and a capacity to start things for yourself, look at new ventures for yourself. I do think there's an element of anything's possible. You know, I think Caitlin Moran is quite a famous homeschooler, isn't she?
Lots of the big movie stars are homeschooled, aren't they? Julian Duncan, I'm in high school. I wish I was homeschooled because I find socialising hard with people.
Isn't this funny?
And it's so hard, isn't it? If you're in a really big space with so many people. And the thing is, people, I mean, all homeschoolers and home edders will say, the first thing you're asked is, what about socialising?
It's funny, isn't it?
But actually, because it's smaller groups and that they can get in, they can mix with different age groups and everything. They've got some really strong friendships.
I've never really understood this idea that going to a state school somehow sorts your social life out. I remember that my social life was the most unbearably stressful only at secondary school. It was horrendous. Having to hang out and be with people you didn't like and know, and they didn't like you, and it was just horrendous. So no, the social side of it is almost my least concern. Going back to someone else asked earlier also in terms of what we actually teach Kiki, we do a similar thing with Kiki as we do with Maddie with the GCSE syllabuses, which is we follow, we're not averse to the syllabus, Key Stage 2, Key Stage 3. We look at the subjects, so like I do history with Kiki all the time, and we go through everything that they would cover in the key stages. But the great thing is that we can also program visits. Frustration of mine was always their schools never took them out on enough visits to art galleries, to historical sites, whereas we have the freedom within our work schedule or at a weekend to go, you know what, we're not going to do anything else, let's just jump in the car, it's Easter, sod it, we're going down here, let's go and learn about the Vikings or something like that.
Yeah.
So there are so many sort of flexible elements to it that don't require you to simply have time on your hands during the week.
Yeah. Joe Plum, my 11-year-old son is starting secondary school in September, but at the moment goes to special school for autism. I'm worried that he'll get kicked out for behaviour, so looking into homeschooling now just in case. Well, Joe, there's so much out there. There's a lot of children with ADHD and autism on the spectrum in the home ed world and with anxiety and because they just didn't feel that their needs were met at school. So just reach out into the community, and there'll be loads of people that have got lots to say to you.
Funnily enough, at school, children are told, you're not here to socialise.
That's so true.
That so
Sarah Bezan, that is you're not here to socialise.
Yeah, you're not here to socialise.
You're not here to have fun. But you know what? That was our big thing. We wanted to get the kids to understand that learning is fun and that it's not something to be scared of, or it's not something that just happens in the hours of school.
Well, there's Helen. But school is a difficult time, but it will give you a thick skin for the future.
When you're older, make the bullies drive your good and kindness and let your personality shine. It is a stage of life that is doable. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I would argue whether being bullied makes you stronger.
Yeah, I'm not entirely certain. If you've got a choice of not being bullied or being bullied, I would go for not being bullied.
Somebody said to me the other day, and it really hit me, and if you're listening, you know who you are, I won't mention your name, and it really hit me what you said. Very, very wise woman. You know
Sounds wise.
She said to me, upstairs person's mum. Just in case you didn't want me to mention you, that's why I'm not mentioning your name. She said to me, think of anything else in life as an adult. If you went to work every single day and there was somebody bullying you and making you cry and you weren't sleeping and you couldn't eat and you were scared and your stomach was churning day in, day out, does it make you a stronger, better adult? Or does it actually give you more anxiety and more unhappiness? If every day you got on the bus and the bus made you feel sick, but every day you were forced by someone, get on the bus. And I thought, you know what, that is so true. As adults, would we continue with something that day in, day out made us terribly unhappy and gave us anxiety, and there was somebody that bullying us?
I think it's a really outmoded thought that we have this idea that if you're a kid, you need to simply do what you should do.
Yeah.
It's from the Victorian age, which is where the education system was established. The Victorian age established our current education system in order to make the working classes subservient and be able to channel us all through so that we were all a very obedient workforce that didn't ask too many questions. So if that's the get-go start of what education came from, the idea of state education wasn't about everyone being educated to Eton's level. I mean, I never understood that as a kid. Why isn't everyone going to private school? I used to say, why doesn't everyone go to private school if it's so good? Well, it just doesn't work like that. Us, normal, humble civilians, we get a system that means that we'll go down to the mine pit and we'll obediently do what we do and we'll prop up a capitalist state. I mean, I'm sounding like a nutter, but it's true. And if you actually peel back most of the impulses behind the education system, it's about managing a huge volume of people and not thinking of the individual and just catering for all of them.
And I think we are told that over and over again. Oh, if you're bullied and you make it through, then you'll be stronger for life. So I hear what you were saying, because that is what we're told, but I think we should question that. Misty Gates said, bullying doesn't make people stronger. I stopped eating and I hated myself.
It can also create more bullies.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I mean, I don't want to use any big topical examples, but, if you bully and you get bullied, sound like Russell Brand. I know, I am beginning to start to sound a bit like Russell Brand.
As long as you get your education, that's the main thing. That's Sense TV. Cameron Fellow, Mark is starting to sound a bit like Russell Brand. Sorry, because I was reading that. Alice Dixon, did they enjoy home education from the beginning, or did it take time? Kiki was over the moon right from the beginning, wasn't she? But Maddie found it really hard to de-school. Because she'd been in school longer, so she found it bizarre. She was scared and worried. And she definitely took a long time.
But Maddie had two different experiences of school. It was quite complicated for Maddie.
Yeah.
Maddie had the real bullying experience.
Yeah. But they say too, when you take your child out of school, to do something called de-schooling, because both as a parent, as a child, you have to sort of get used to, you have to sort of get rid of that
way of thinking.
Yeah, what's it when you're institutionalized, so you do something, the programming, you have to sort of deprogram. So they say for every year your child's been at school, spend a month doing nothing. And it's so scary, isn't it? But then out of that, then eventually everyone calms down and starts to get more creative. Helen Gates, we have been home ed 2 years and we love it. Oh, good for you. What are the scary bits? Because those first few years, we still get scared, don't we?
I always say to the girls as well, I mean, in any culture, in any life, the people who slightly swim against the tide, it's very easy to point the finger at someone who's doing something slightly differently and find all the reasons for why they shouldn't be doing it. And so I do say to the girls, it is odd. This is a very strange way to learn. It's not the standard, it's not the norm. My interest is in finding them as many ways to learn and feel connected to their peer group, both in terms of what they know from the syllabus. But the interesting thing is, whenever I say to Maddie, I want you to be across all the same historical facts that all your friends that are doing history GCSE are across, her first line back is, because we've taken them at a slower pace and we've taken them in a different way, is she says, well, a lot of my friends, as soon as they've done their GCSEs, forget it all. They've done it to pass the GCSE. We're not just getting our girls to learn for GCSE passing. We want them to learn for themselves, so that when they're in the world, they can sit down and have a meaningful conversation, not say, as I've never been asked to do, by the way, here's my GCSE grade. I've never held it up.
No, that's such a shame, isn't it? Nicola Scott says, one problem we have with homeschooling is homeschool children accepting our school children accepting our home ed son at his at clubs, etc. So he prefers to stick with his home ed friends. Oh, that's interesting. Because Maddie actually has a lot of friends out of home ed, doesn't she? Because the drama group she goes to, and they all go to school. But I can imagine, that would be tricky.
Yeah, definitely learned just to pass exams, forgotten most of it.
That's from Alice Dickerson. Yeah. Oh, Helen Gates, we do child-led autonomous learning, Nadia. Helen, that's what I want to do. I'm never quite brave enough, but I'm fascinated in that. Hip Trek, I sent the link to TED Talk about the NASA study. Oh, lovely, would love to watch that. Thanks for that, Hip. You sent it to our Instagram, brilliant. Hi, Sandy Rahim, that's just joined. We're just talking about home educating our children. Amy Rempel, bullying in university made me more determined to be nice to everyone. Well, that is so brilliant if you manage to turn a negative experience into something positive, but not everybody is strong enough to do that. Cameron Fallow, I do think the British education system has a problem with making pupils pass exams rather than fill with intelligence more than other countries. I'm also they say there is absolute proof, don't they?
Yeah.
In countries where they have the baccalaureate, where you just get tested once at the end of your school life, the evidence is infatigable, is that right? That children do better, because our education system is based on testing. It's all the time, isn't it?
Helen Gates, autonomous teacher. My son chooses his topics and we build everything around that. Yeah, we did
do that.
We did something with Maddie, and when we kind of led with the topic, but she loves her music so much, and we started with a Nina Simone documentary about a song called "Strange Fruit," And she sort of she moved into the civil rights issues in a history syllabus via Nina Simone's song and exploring the history of...
And actually, Mark, when you've done those things with her with history, it really, I'm so tempted, because we are following we're following a syllabus, aren't we, with history? But I'm so tempted to do that, for you to just say, come on, what are the most exciting times? And just do all those, ask them what they want to do, like Bella did the other day. Should I want to do the suffragettes? It's a friend of ours. You know, something that's caught their imagination that they want to know more about, and then they'll probably just start looking into other stuff.
I totally agree with you, George. There should be campaigns, movements for free home education, because I feel for the parents who are not financially stable or able to afford home education. You're absolutely right. It's we're lucky. It's the freelance nature of our work really does help.
Yeah.
Because that really resonated with me, and it troubles me, that comment that someone said, which really schooling is a system of childcare. And I can see that. I can see how it's like, well, where the hell do we just simply put them where we can be sure they're safe? It's not us not being a responsible parent because we want to put them somewhere. We are responsible. I get that. I mean, I had that when I was a young parent with Izzy. It's incredibly hard. It's incredibly hard.
Jasmine Lake, I'm going to read this out to our daughters. Jasmine Lake's the one who we speak to earlier. It's got the brothers and sisters all homeschooled her whole school life. Someone once said to me, this is from Jasmine Lake, I don't have a future because I haven't gone to school. Once I've reached my goals, I'll definitely let her know about it. Go, girl! We don't do the syllabus, Stacey Groom. We don't use the syllabus.
For some people, school feels like it's actually prison. What did you just say? We do use the syllabus.
No, we're not following the.
Yes, we do.
No, we're not.
We do. That's what we do with the IGCSEs.
Yeah, but we're not. No, but we're not following the school curriculum where you're doing everything in the school curriculum. That's what she means.
No, you have a different syllabus for different subjects.
Yeah, we're not following. But I think what she means is, are you following the school curriculum?
Not the curriculum. No. But I mean, we will follow. I will make sure that Kiki intercepts in our way all of the topics that she needs to in history, geography, English, Key Stage 3, and what have you.
Yeah.
So
this is a really interesting question. Gail Caroline Cummings. Are the boundaries between mum, dad, teacher, person blurred?
Well, Nadia,
we're not teachers.
Nadia uses this word.
Facilitators.
Facilitators.
We don't teach them. I mean, we're teaching them about life all the time, aren't we? Because we have very in-depth conversations with them. I mean, just for instance, our movie reviews that we do on this channel, that is them learning. That's them doing English without them knowing. So we'll do what by stealth. It's by stealth.
Learning by stealth.
So Mark and I will often pose a question, won't we, at dinner? We'll go, so what do you think about blah, blah, blah? And then just get them to discuss that, and that's them learning. Now, you might think, well, they're not in a class. There's no teacher here. But they are. What, darling?
No, nothing.
Okay. So, the number's there. So, who are we looking here? Facilitator, so true, just Maria. This is truly, for some people, school feels like it's actually prison. I know, that is hard. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us. I think we've answered most of the questions there. We're going to post this up, though, so it will stay there. And if you could just
keep the dialogue going underneath.
Anyone know that it's there. And you know what would be really great? Can you subscribe to the channel? This is a really new channel for us. So get more subscribers. We can do more lives. And once you're subscribed, you'll get an alert saying that we're going to do a live.
Yeah. Oh, look, just shared your movie reviews with our WhatsApp groups. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. We love our and home editors out there. Try getting if your kids love movies, do a movie review with them, because it really gets them thinking, and it forces them to listen to other people's argument without stropping off.
Yeah, and hearing different opinions without just going, no, I don't like it. So.
Please can you let me know quickly where to find the syllabus? It doesn't really work like that, Stacey Groom. I tell you what, try edyourself.org, because there's loads of questions and answers answered there. Edyourself.org is a really good website to get those sort of questions. Press the bell next to the subscribe button to get notifications. What's that?
That's us saying that.
So thank you so much, and please do hit the subscribe. Where's the subscribe button, Mark?
I don't really know. Well, it was there. I don't know.
It's there.
Sort of there. Yeah,
there.
Yeah. Anyway, lots more movie reviews coming. There's going to be more homeschooling stuff. We do put a lot of daily stuff on the Instagram account.
Yeah,
because it lends itself well to that, the Nadia Sawalha and family, because sometimes it'll be an exhibition, sometimes we'll be out, sometimes there'll be... We did a thing about cursive writing this week, and it got a huge response. Yeah. But it's a bit too bitty to put on the YouTube channel, so we will do... But I think these pit stops are quite useful for people, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really
Useful
lovely. Please keep leaving comments because we're fascinated. We are 2 home editors wanting to learn from other home editors. So please, if there's anything that we've said that you think, oh, I've got a good idea, I know how to help them out with that, we'd love to have your advice. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely Sunday evening. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.